Rakurou Hizutome is a freak who has nothing better to do with his life than beat crappy games. I have no idea what sort of fetish this is, but this guy would probably fall sick if he tried playing a normal game. After finishing his most recent trash game, he looks for another trash game, but is then advised to try a god-tier game called Shangri La Frontier, and his life takes a crazy turn when he discovers that the trash games have helped him build his gaming skills. It begins when we see Faria, a lady with ears that can hear sounds 11 kilometers away, thanking a masked man for finally slaying the Dark Lord. The difference between this guy and Rey Mysterio is the simple fact that this weirdo is putting on boxers, not shorts. Not trousers, but boxers. Despite defeating the Dark Lord, this odd person, who we now know to be Sunraku, doesn't seem to be happy, and while I'm still trying to figure out what is going on here, he gives Faria a very beautiful kick that meets the requirement for a fatality in Mortal Kombat. He then screams out loud that she's the real Dark Lord and the real menace to this world, and suddenly the screen shows the end. It dawns on me that this is just a game. I shouldn't be getting too hyped for things like these. We meet our protagonist, Rakurou Hizutome, for the first time, and he jubilates to finally beat Faria Chronicles and take his revenge on Faria. At this point, I can only wonder what Faria did to our boy to deserve that kick. Virtual reality gaming has become a rampant thing in this world, and although there are a lot of very good games, Rakurou falls on the side of the people who prefer trash games. Trash games are simply games with defects, maybe in the graphics or with horrible storylines, or it could even be bosses that are impossible to beat. People who prefer these unbearably useless games are known as freaks, and Rakurou is a bona fide freak. It's even possible that he's the freakiest of them all. He opens his window, stretches, and wonders what trash game he is going to try next. It's the last day of school before summer vacation, and Rakurou leaves home and heads to school. He seems tired, obviously from relentless gaming, and as he walks along the corridor, there's a girl who seems to be plotting how she will approach him and talk to him. This makes me sad. Even losers like Rakurou have girls drooling over him, and here I am, single, even with all my beauty and glory. She's about to ambush him when suddenly a gamer friend of his steals him away. The girl's name is Rei Saga, and at the end of the school day, we see her walk into a game shop called Rock Roll. She meets the owner, Mana, who immediately tells her that Rakurou isn't around, but she denies looking for him, saying that she just came to look at some games. What a lie. Apparently, Rei also happens to be a gamer, so it isn't unusual to see her in a place like this. Mana tells Rei that Rakurou might not be coming anytime soon, considering he was trying to crack a very trashy game, and she shows Rei the game. They begin to discuss how trashy the game is when suddenly Rakurou walks into the store and asks if Mana has got any good trashy games lately. Before Mana could look up and down, Rei had vanished and was hiding behind one of the game shelves. Mana asks Rakurou how the game was, and he tells her it was an outstanding pile of garbage. He goes on to explain how Faria was the cause of every problem in the game, and she'll end up blaming the Dark Lord. He also tells her of how he endured all those things just so he could get the 3 minutes between the moment you defeat the last boss and before the end credits start, and how he used those 3 minutes to beat the shit out of Faria. In all my life, I have never met someone talk about a game with such vigor. He becomes a little sad, saying he doesn't know what other trash game to play, and Mana tells him to try a game that's not rubbish for once. She shows him a game called Shangri La Frontier, and weirdly enough, he agrees to play the game. Meanwhile, Rei is still hiding behind the game shelf and hears the entire conversation, so she knows the game Rakurou is going to be playing next. Rakurou buys the game, heads home, reads about the game, and immediately starts playing it. He takes a bit of time building his game avatar. This guy throws me off a cliff when he makes the decision to sell all his equipment just so he can have money to spend in the game. It just so happens that after selling all his equipment, he is left wearing only shorts, so he has to at least put on a mask to hide his shame. After selecting his avatar and his skill set, it's time to enter the game. He gets into the game and is so amazed by the quality of the visuals and the number of things he can do here that were impossible to do in trash games. Rakurou always picks the same name for his avatars in any game he plays, Sunraku, and he picks the same name for this particular game as well. He chooses Wanderer as his origin, so he isn't taken to any tutorial town. Instead, he is just dropped off in the forest because of the preset he selected. He views his map and sees the town named Firstia, which is the first town he needs to head to, and he decides to make his way there while still checking things around. He checks his stats and and sees that he's low on vitality, but his luck stat is quite high. As he keeps making his way, he is attacked by a nasty-looking goblin, and he maneuvers and kills the goblin easily and immediately levels up to level 2. Just as he's celebrating his win, he gets attacked again by another creature who almost slices his head. This creature is known as the Vorpal Bunny, and boy oh boy, the pair of knives it's wielding is absolutely incredible. The bunny strikes again, and this time our boy blocks and strikes, giving a critical hit to the ninja bunny. Bunny isn't giving up and comes again, and soon Raku ends him this time. Killing the bunny increases his experience points by 2, taking Sunraku to level 4. This bunny really packed a punch, but it doesn't drop that weapon, and Sunraku really wants that weapon. Sunraku begins to enjoy the game even more when he realizes he has not encountered even a single bug. And instead of this stupid guy to head straight to the town of Firstia, he starts looking for more monsters and Vorpal bunnies to fight, and after fighting about 50 of them, he finally gets the Vorpal chopper, and at this point, he is already at level 12. He then allocates his stats, and I don't know exactly what brand of alcohol Sunraku is drinking, but he only allocates 5 points to his stamina and 20 to his luck. This guy, he notices that he has strayed far away from Firstia and is closer to Secondale, the second town in the game, so he just decides to go there, and he comes across a bridge where he meets a Giant Python. Sunraku is so excited, knowing he has to defeat this beast before he'd be allowed to cross the bridge. Meanwhile, we also find out that Rei is a character in the game and a powerful one at that. Her avatar searches for Sunraku in Firstia, but she can't find him anywhere, and she begins to assume he might have moved to Secondale. Back to our fight with the Python boss. Sunraku heads straight for the snake and somehow maneuvers. He decides he's going to first watch the attack pattern of the snake and uses one of his skills known as Tap Step, which he uses to jump away whenever the beast attacks him. After a while, he decides to strike while running but breaks his sword in the process. He then pulls out the big guns. Sorry, I meant to say Vorpal chopper, and he jumps with the intention to deal a deadly strike when suddenly the python sprays some form of purple gas on him. He initially thinks it's poop, but later finds out it's a poisonous gas that reduces his health every 10 seconds. Now, he is in trouble. It's a race against time and a battle against the python. He found a way to give a critical hit, but still, that doesn't do much damage, and eventually he holds the hair of the python and strikes its eyes, destroying the python. He flexes his punches, laughing that he defeated the snake. Then he picks up the drops before this idiot realizes that his health is already at 9. He dumps all his gathered points into stamina and agility and sprints heading to the town to find an inn where he can respawn if he dies. He runs with all his might until he comes to face the town. A player sees him and immediately understands what is happening to him and directs him to the inn, also telling him it doesn't register unless he gets in bed. He thanks the guy without even stopping because his health is deteriorating faster than you can say sushi. He gets to the inn, and this NPC definitely wants him to die because she keeps wasting his time. Eventually, he gets to the room and performs an amazing dive onto the bed. It immediately registers as his respawn point, and Sunraku dies. Rakurou then takes a break from SLF and is so excited about how intense and interesting the game is. He says he is going to thank those players that directed him the next time he sees them. He comes back to the game and takes a walk around the town of Secondale. He mentions that this is actually his first experience in the game, and he wants to give it everything he's got. The other players seem to be disturbed by his avatar, especially the fact that he isn't wearing any clothes, so he decides to go buy some clothes. Sunraku has to be the stingiest person I've ever met because he requests the cheapest thing they have in the shop. The cloth looks kind of cool though, and not totally hideous. Then he proceeds to get a new weapon. He checks through the weapon seller's catalog and finds out there's no weapon there better than his Vorpal choppers, and the seller tells him that if he wants something to top that, he'd have to bring him materials to make the weapon for him. So Sunraku heads to the Daira Marsh Waste to mine for ores to make a new weapon. The seller tells him he'd need at least 5 ores to make a good weapon, but he has only been finding pieces of rocks, and he's getting frustrated. That's when a frog comes to annoy him. In anger, he defeats the frog and continues mining until he finds the ores he needs, which he then takes back to the weapon master. He shows the guy the ores and the guy screams when he sees a unique green ore. and then proceeds to show him the type of weapon he could create with the ore, and Sunraku accepts it. It's a pretty good-looking weapon that fits Sunraku's playing style efficiently. Sunraku is even more surprised at how advanced this AI is because of how it's communicating with him. Later that night, Sunraku goes out of the town because the weapon guy told him that a lot of monsters lurk around there at night. Meanwhile, we see Rei easily defeat the python on her way to Secondale. She's still searching for Sunraku, who we can now see fighting a red-capped goblin who is more aggressive and stronger than the forest goblin. He seems to be enjoying this battle so much with the very unusual patterns and the fighting method of the goblin. Things take an insane turn when the goblin calls for his family and friends to come and partake in the battle. And even then, Sunraku has no intention of giving up. Then something amazing happens. All the goblins are wiped away suddenly, revealing a very massive wolf-like monster. This monster is so special, it has a name. Lycagon the Night Slayer, a unique monster. Rei is still searching for Sunraku, and she encounters those players who directed him to the inn. They also direct her toward where Sunraku is, and she bolts off. The player then mentions that the emblem on her cape indicates a membership of a clan that focuses on the unique monster, Lycagon the Night Slayer. He tells her that they are rumored to be 7 unique monsters, and what's more insane is how ridiculously strong they are. Shangri La Frontier has been running for more than a year, and even with a player base of 30 million, no one has still been able to defeat any of the unique monsters. Back to Sunraku and Lycagon. Lycagon reaches out to attack Sunraku, who blocks it but is sent flying backward. Sunraku then realizes he should probably get serious and switches his weapons to the Vorpal choppers and strikes the beast, but it doesn't even seem to faze the beast. He then strikes more and more, aiming at the legs, and he is able to get a few critical hits. Suddenly, the beast disappears, then appears again and attacks, but Sunraku blocks and hits it. It disappears again, and this pattern repeats itself until Sunraku decides to aim for the eyes, but that doesn't work, and now Sunraku is floating in the air. He feels the beast is too far away to do anything to him, but suddenly, Lycagon howls, and Sunraku just freezes. The next thing we see is that Sunraku no longer has his legs. The beast proceeds to kill him, and ultimately Sunraku is hit with the Lycagon curse. He spawns again in the inn and discovers his body is full of marks, and his equipment is gone. He then reads about the Lycagon curse and discovers that he's screwed, and he gets angry. He was just on his own, and the stupid beast decided to pick a fight with him, kill him, and then curse him. The curse doesn't even let him wear clothes again, so he now looks more hideous than before. Sunraku makes his way into the town, depressed but also determined that he's going to find the beast and kill it eventually. Just then in an alley, he happens to see a Vorpal bunny. But this one looks like it went to Harvard, unlike the ones that have been attacking him since. The bunny calls out to him, and he follows the bunny until they come to a secret door. The bunny makes his way inside the door, and Sunraku also follows him through the door. Rakurou lets us know that he saw something like this while reading the game guide, and they called it unique scenarios. The location, unlock times, contents, and flags of these unique scenarios are unknown to the public, so the skills gathered in these unique scenarios are all said to be top class. Sunraku figures this happened to him as a result of him dumping all his points into his luck, and he's not going to let this opportunity pass him by. He walks through the door and enters the realm called Rabituza. Now this realm looks much like the human realm, but the difference is that there are only bunnies here. Then that same bunny who brought Sunraku here in the first place shows up again, and keeps talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, and then takes Sunraku to meet his boss. Sunraku sees the boss and immediately becomes afraid because this doesn't look like an ordinary bunny or rabbit. This beast looks like a Japanese drug lord, and let's not even get started with the cigarette in his mouth. He introduces himself as Visash, and trust me when I say that Sunraku is petrified. I mean, I would also be if it were me in the face of danger. I really cannot wait to find out what insane thing this boss will do to Sunraku. We see Rei at the game shop, obviously searching for her one true love, Hizutome. She's startled as Mana asks if she's heading to the dojo. Mana asks if she still hasn't found him in the game, and Rei tells her that she's been searching for a player under the name Sunraku. But it seems like he skipped the first stage and went ahead to the second stage. Mana tells her to express her feelings to him, and the simple little stupid virgin girl is embarrassed, and her face turns crimson red. Hizutome reads the reviews of unique scenarios recommended for beginners, but what he read was totally different from what he encountered. He flashes back on how shaken to the bone he was at the sight of that intimidating, Yakuza-looking boss who commends him for putting up a good fight with Lycagon. He says things in a gangster way that makes Sunraku and me almost pee our pants. Upon realizing this was a training quest, Hizutome immediately falls on his knees, accepts the training, and calls the Yakuza boss Aniki. The Yakuza boss, upon hearing this, switches modes like my mum after I talk back to her. The dude's eyes turn bright red like a miniature version of the Sharingan. They say the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and I'm telling you guys, Sunraku begins to perceive that he might have less than 39 seconds more to live. Was he wrong to address him as Aniki? The Yakuza boss gets up and moves towards him. God, the air is so tense. We see the Yakuza boss throw a hand and grab Sunraku, and he laughs, telling him he likes him, and Sunraku should address him as Vash, though he's his underling. Vash gets up and calls Immel, the same cute little fluffy bunny that talks more than Donald Trump, and tells him Sunraku is under his care. Vash turns to take his leave and uses a force equip item on Sunraku called Vorpal Soul Collar, which apparently limits Sunraku's power or so. Hizutome decides to play a game he hasn't tried in a while. He's challenged and loses the fight. He tells his challenger about this new game he's been playing and about how there are crazy strong unbeaten monsters which he encounters one and gets his ass whooped. We all know this crazy, crappy game addict is not gonna set down this game until he beats Lycagon. Some very sexy player is invited to play SLF too. Hizutome goes back into Secondale. Sunraku uses a portal that Immel opens. Immel informs Sunraku that it can open a portal to anywhere. Then, as they form an alliance, two female players cite Immel, and just like the normal human females that will give their life for anything fluffy, these guys, or rather girls, get so inquisitive. They ask him how they can get one of its kind into their party, just as Immel is about to open its mouth to spill all the beans. Stupid decision, by the way. Sunraku covers its mouth and runs away. But as they run away, one of the female players takes a screenshot. They run to the outskirts of town. Sunraku is about to ask Immel about a line in the curse that says, "Monsters with lower levels than the afflicted will flee," and all of a sudden we hear a screech. It's a ram running towards Sunraku with the intent to attack. The ram sees the curse marks on Sunraku and immediately turns around to flee. Sunraku doesn't let the ram escape. "You can't come to attack me and not finish your mission." That's what Sunraku must be thinking. He chases after it and kills it. Immel is amazed by his skills. Without further ado, Sunraku and Immel sprint off to look for more monsters to fight. They get to a monster territory called the Mud Digger. This beast looks like something straight out of a Brazilian horror movie. A monster like a great white shark with 4 legs springs out of the mud. The monster in the air is informed that in the mud, one of your feet has to be completely immersed in the mud. Unless the second foot reaches the bottom of the mud, the first foot won't move, which means he can't run. This is definitely the worst setup ever. The Mud Digger dives back into the shallow mud that I can barely immerse my whole foot in. I guess that's just crappy game logic, but still extra intelligent at its core. Who designs these kinds of things, by the way? The Mud Digger advances to attack Sunraku, and just like a shark, we see its dorsal fin at the surface of the shallow mud. Sunraku uses a skill called Slide Move to evade the attack. And just as the Mud Digger makes a turn to attack again, Sunraku blocks it and uses a counter skill to damage it, but only a little. Sunraku is stranded and needs a few seconds to recover the only 2 skills he can use against the Mud Digger. The Mud Digger advances, and we finally see this rabbit do something useful. It brings out a book and casts a magic spell that sends the Mud Digger flying. Sunraku makes his way to the Mud Digger but doesn't get to it on time. It's back on its feet again. Sunraku uses magic counter, and Immel casts the same spell again. The Mud Digger floors for a few seconds. Just as Sunraku and Immel get themselves back together, the Mud Digger, it's gone. They wonder where the Mud Digger has gone. It's in the mud dummies. The ground begins to shake. Sunraku realizes that before the mud digger jumps out of the mud, it makes the ground shake. He immediately realizes that the mud digger is coming his way from below. He quickly throws Emul a distance to save her, and immediately he's launched high into the air. Apparently, the mud digger wants to use his free fall velocity to kill him. Like in real life, if you fall from that kind of height, you'll find yourself with the most high. As he falls, builds up momentum, Emul shows his usefulness again. He rushes to him, opens a scroll, casts a spell. They're both teleported to just above the mud digger. The free fall velocity activates a skill called Meteor Fall, resulting in a devastating head boot, which gives the mud digger a headache that sends him to the beyond, and Sunraku immediately levels up. Sunraku and Emul make their way back to the city, and Sunraku wonders how he would hide Emul once they're in the city. Emul stops and asks Sunraku to keep it between them and uses an artifact to metamorphose into a beautiful young lady. Alas, we've determined Emul's gender. No wonder Emul talks a lot. Sunraku, downcast, and wonders if this is the usual crappy game or a harem game with an anthro bunny girl. She immediately transforms back and says, it's hard to keep up that state in her present level. We all know how magical powers are transferred in other animes. They make their way to the city. They're stopped at the gate, and Sunraku is questioned by the gatekeepers if he was robbed. Why is he half naked? What are these marks on his body? Emul steps up and, oh my god, what a drama queen. She quickly cooks up some sad story that throws the guards off them. We realize that when the girls took a picture of Vorpal Bunny in the previous episode, players began arguing over Emul and the girls' lack of permission to take a picture, but it escalates. However, someone inquires about his scars, and the players discover a curse from Likagon. The clan of player killers from Ashura Kai wants to keep killing Sunraku until he explains the curse. Saiger tells him she can protect him. She is a strong member of the clan that hunts Likagon. Sunraku interests her as well. Sunraku is stopped by Animalia, who attempts to persuade him to explain how players can tame Vorpal bunnies, but they are cut off. Someone attacks them unexpectedly, but Sunraku dodges and keeps his distance. It's Arthur Pencilgon, we discover. The anime returns to the first meeting of Arthur Pencilgon and Sunraku, and it's definitely in a garbage game known as Unite Rounds. It is supposed to be a cooperative game in which participants combat hordes of enemies. However, due to the low drop rates, players must exhaust themselves in order to obtain a single item. As a result, the players begin stealing from each other or NPCs to obtain what they need, effectively destroying the cooperation aspect. Suddenly, one individual constructs a kingdom and gathers players to battle for them, and others to mock and make fun of. That's Pencilgon for you. She's a wicked, sexy gamer who enjoys killing or making other people's lives more difficult. Katsuo and Sunraku arrive at her castle, aided by the rebel troops. Returning to SFL, Pencilgon lunges for Sunraku and nearly slashes his head. He parries the final poisoned arrow after dodging the first two that she lobs at him. Then, Animalia recalls Pencilgon's identity. She goes by the moniker the Giant Killer and is Ashura Kai's second-in-command. Her nickname comes from her previous emphasis on ambushing players who were at a higher level. And just when you least expect it, Emul begins to lose her disguise. After insulting the hell out of each other, they both become enraged and engage in violent combat. According to Pencilgon, Ashura Kai's boss wants her to deliver a message to Sunraku. It is said that Sunraku would carry a target on his back until he divulges details of the unique scenario. Though Sunraku is struggling, he understands that Pencilgon does not want him to get to the town's gate. He could be able to get away if he does that. Emul is touched by Animalia, and the shock makes her revert back to our lovely bunny. However, that offers Sunraku a tactic. He calls out Emul, uses repel counter on Pencilgon, and dashes to the gate. Animalia defends them from Arthur because she doesn't want the bunny to suffer any harm. But as he approaches the gate, more Ashura Kai members stop him. Pencilgon faces a formidable spell from Animalia, which she ultimately blocks because she has this item that looks like a voodoo thing from Nigeria. Ray shows up and kills one of Ashura Kai's members with a single blow when everything seems hopeless. Her sister, another player who is motivated to defend Sunraku, sends her on a search for him. She is shocked to learn that Sunraku, who she has been searching for, is in trouble, so she tracks him down and saves him. Pencilgon muses to herself that Sunraku's abilities are worth far more than special goods and powerful stats. Sunraku and Katsuo playing Shangri La Frontier could make her project feasible. What kind of project could that be? Animalia claims to have one final trick up her sleeve. For a little while, we go back in time to discover how Rei first met Hizutome. She was struck by his happiness when she saw him in the hallways, or on his daily walk to school. She began to obsess over him and look for a chance to speak with him, but she's so scared. She is so happy now being able to assist him in dodging Ashurikai's blows. Pencil Gon cannot evade Animalia's potent curse, however, as it is being applied. Both players perish because one of the curse's requirements is for the user to sacrifice themselves. Sunraku is able to flee as a result of the other opponents becoming distracted. He apologizes, hops on Rei's sword, moves on to her head, using it as a springboard, and goes into the city. As Sunraku reflects and hopes to recall her one day to thank the player Siger Zero, Rei is drifting off. She's already celebrating his conversation with her and reliving the moment over and over again. The players think they could attack her now because she is in Dreamland, and she instantly dispatches all of them. She destroys them all, furious that they caused her reunion with Sunraku to be ruined. Sunraku finally reaches the town, and immediately Emil sends them to Rabatuza so he can start his unique scenario. Pencil Gon sends him a sore loser message saying she wants to talk to him in Unite Rounds. Karzo also sends him an email telling him he's interested and will meet up with them. As they stroll through Rabatuza, Emil announces that they are heading to the Vorpal Coliseum, a place that looks like where fighters fought in Spartacus, the location of Sunraku's training. Emil begins to explain the rules there. Sunraku must defeat 10 distinct opponents and use only Vorpal weapons to prevail. He is very confident, believing that he will only need a few turns to discover the monster's weaknesses and defeat them all. We see Rei in vivid imagination. She imagines that her and Hizutome would now become friends, and that they would walk to school every day. She is a little disappointed, though, that she was unable to locate him in the city after searching up and down. The initial conflict is with a wolf pack. Yes, you heard me right. Sunraku becomes vexed because he expects it to be one opponent at a time, but Emil tells him they attack as a pack. He initially finds it difficult to combat them because of how well coordinated their attacks are. After dying a few times, he discovers that one of the wolves stays back to give orders. He goes straight for that filthy, disgustingly stupid animal who has been the cause of all his problems in this fight. He eliminates the alpha and destroys the others easily afterward, thinking he was done with multiple monsters at once. He was about to enter the second fight, but boy, what the flip was even going on. Yes, alright, it's a single monster, but it has other monsters attached to it. Definitely not what Sunraku was hoping for, but he fights it off and then proceeds to take us through the series of monster fights, all of which were very different from one another. He was able to defeat a few in one try, but most took much longer. One of them, a poison-using bird, killed more than 100 times. In addition to dying a lot, he is also unhappy that all that effort only allowed him to level up twice. He will battle the final boss at last. However, Vash arrives at the Vorpal Coliseum as a result of an event flag being raised. The leader of the Vorpal Bunnies says that Sunraku will have to battle a monster that Vash himself captured. Furthermore, the goal will be to survive for 5 minutes because killing it will be too difficult. Fun fact, among 30 million other players, Sunraku will be the first player to take on the level 120 Aberrant Wood Mage foe. When Aberrant Wood Mage launches roots in Sunraku's direction, he knows this endurance test is going to be more difficult than he anticipated. He twists, he turns, pulling off moves that make me nominate Sunraku to be the next Spider-Man. He tries to attack the monster after he gets away from them. The move he pulls here is as sweet as sugar, performing this insane slide like a footballer celebrating a goal, but it is totally useless and ineffective. And before you can say Captain America, the monster pulls out some chains. Sunraku envelops in another fiesta of dodging and twisting and turning and more dodging. He soon realizes that Aberrant Wood Mage is not limited to using roots and chains. He can also use spells. It also changes them as the battle goes on, becoming capable of summoning ice, fire, and electricity. The longer the battle rages, the denser and more potent the attacks, seemingly making this battle more difficult. When 3 minutes have passed, Sunraku considers giving up. He's worn out, and since dying won't bring him any harm, he could just die and come back later to face the beast. He could simply go to bed and try again at a later time when his chances are better. However, he then realizes that, as with his fight with Mud Digger, he has been doing that a lot lately. He gets his confidence back and devises a fresh plan. Sunraku uses one of the roots as a springboard and leaps up to reach the Aberrant Wood Mage. Leaping towards the monster, he defies every attempt by the chains to strike him. Sunraku snatches its magic wand with a kick. It surprises Vash to see that, but the main character has 2 minutes left to go. The monster loses its mind and goes on the rampage. Although there are no spells for Sunraku to deal with, the danger from the roots and chains remains constant. With only 45 seconds remaining, the aberrant wood mage stops Sunraku by building a wall out of its roots. His feet are grabbed by one of the chains, which repeatedly debuffs him. He tosses the wand far away, realizing he cannot stop the next attack. The stupid creature with the brain of a seahorse doesn't realize Sunraku's plan, so it stops everything it's doing to grab the wand, thereby expending time. And the 5 minutes elapsed. Classic Sunraku. He mocks the life out of this wooden deformity, but it seems like its mum didn't train the aberrant wood mage to take jokes. It does not vanish. Instead, he is getting ready for another deadly attack. Before this monster could turn Sunraku into a digital bowl of steak on a stick, Vash leaps and smashes the monster in one move. Upon finishing the task, the Vorpal soul collar disappears. While Sunraku is irritated that he doesn't get any items, a new scenario, Vorpal Epic, appears. After removing his VR goggles, he falls asleep. He thinks about what to do the other day. He is unaware of the plot of the scenario. In addition, since Sunraku is only on level 31, it is advised for players who are at least level 80. Although he chooses to move to a new city, the other players may wish to pursue him once more. Emil then states that she has a thought. They go to the store owned by Emil's cousin and get Sunraku a disguise. We get to see the disguise when they get to Third Rima, and it's just as ostentatious as the bird's head. His entire body is covered by a keffieh. This meme costume is modeled after the Egyptian deity Medjed. Through Third Rima, they can reach 3 distinct locations. Emul notices something odd while Sunraku blusterily explains why he chose the prismatic forest grotto. They already know someone over there, she claims. As the image shifts, we see Rei staring daggers at them while attempting to hide behind a building. Keyword, attempting. The Ashura Kai wannabes gather themselves and beat themselves up for failing to apprehend and question Sunraku. Their leader tells them that the bunny is connected to a unique scenario. They must do whatever they can to get information out of Sunraku. A member brings up the fact that they have to deal with the bunny first before going after Sunraku. The leader reminds them that they can't beat a unique monster, and they all agree that it's going to be a wonderful waste of good items. The whole talk pisses off Pencilgon, and she gets up and leaves saying she's got better things to do. Well, that leaves us all wondering. It's not like they're going after her boyfriend or anything. The Ashura Kai thrives on hatred right from the start, but since they changed the game patch, making player killing a risky venture, they've changed. It's only natural they change strategy. Actually, I don't know what this crazy girl is spilling, but the rude girl that walked out of the Ashura Kai meeting feels it's necessary to go after the bunny. Apparently, she's got to do it for a certain Set Chan. Sunraku is still in that ghost Halloween costume-looking disguise, and Emul is in her natural disguise form. The little pretty maiden that will one day carry all my children. Emul cites Saiger Zero and tells Sunraku. Sunraku makes a break for it, thinking Saiger Zero has come for revenge for stepping on him. 2 members of the Wannabes squad sight them running and go after them. While on the run, Emil reminds Sunraku that they're supposed to head to the prismatic forest grotto and that they're heading towards the ruins. Sunraku enlightens Emil on his master plan to throw them off their trail by faking their destination and making a quick swerve before they know it. The Wannabes buy it and inform the other Wannabes that he's headed to the ruins. They'll be waiting for nothing but dust. And let's not lie, the name Wannabes suits them perfectly. Aha, deception complete. But wait, who's got that shadow behind him? It's Saiger Zero. Electricity runs down Sunraku's body, but all Saiger Zero wanted to do was send a friend's request. Lost in thoughts and perplexed about what is going on, Sunraku wonders if it's a trap, so he lets his guard down and spills the beans about the unique scenario. I don't even know if this dumbass found out that it's a she in all that armor. Even I'm still wondering why she chose such a musclehead character with full body armor. Is she that geeky? Or is she just that shy? Saiger Zero is overjoyed that Sunraku accepts the request, and she asks if she can be of help to him through the game. Sunraku, shocked to the bone, rejects her offer, and I can tell by the looks on Emul's face that she knows what's going on. There's always a love slice in the game of life. Saiger Zero is fulfilled that she could at least get to be friends with him in a game. Reality has caught up with the Wannabes, and they make their way to the gates of the prismatic forest grotto. And guess who they found? In a deep voice, the Saiger Zero. As the world-class cowards they are, They make a U-turn and head back. Sunraku and Emul take off their disguises as they pass through a tunnel filled with bioluminescence leading to the forest. Sunraku is amazed by the creatures he finds in the forest, a butterfly with a huge jug for a belly filled with nectar piques Sunraku's interest. Its beauty piqued my interest too, but I wouldn't think of drinking that. But yeah, he's got a bird for a head. He pulls out his sabers and dashes towards the butterfly to slice it down, but nothing for him, just like how you can never actually hit a fly when it's annoying you. This butterfly swiftly moves, and he misses like when you try to kick a ball but your leg moves right past it. The shame. He tries again, but this time, he gets the butterfly. I thought the little creature was going to put up a fight. I thought this glutton was going to eat it, but he stores it instead. Apparently, it's good for throwing. I've got a few ideas of my own, but let us see what Sunraku has in store for us. After easily defeating a flower camouflaging mantis, he sights a hungry squad beetle about 5 meters long, battling with bees. Like the madman he is, this clown literally picks up a mushroom and commentates on the fight. I have seen none more jobless than this. The bees attack, but the beetle's shell is just too hard for them to penetrate. These bees are relentlessly going at the beetle. The beetle enhances using its horn to wipe the slate clean of the bees. Sunraku turns to Emil to drop a comment on their little found hobby, but Emil instantly kills the vibe with her stupid comment, and Sunraku gives her the disappointed look. Sunraku turns and continues his marvelous job at commentating. The relentless bees, though having lost a few comrades, still keep on going at it. And yes, their efforts don't go to complete waste. These unwavering creatures have finally put a little crack in the shell of the beetle. Just when we think the beetle is done for, it deploys its wing and launches towards the queen and wipes her out. The bees, without their dear queen, flee, and the beetle returns back to its meal. It notices Sunraku and turns around. Gosh, I love the surprised look on their faces. Like, what's going on here? Did we just get busted? And without hesitation, the beetle charges right at them by air, and this brings back sweet memories. It reminds me of Temple Run. Sunraku uses the butterfly nectar he stored to lure the beetle by throwing it on a mantis. The beetle, without a second thought, changes course. Why can't girls be so easy? The beetle charges towards the mantis and feeds on it. Sunraku uses this great opportunity to exploit the cracks on its shell and kills it. They continue exploring the forest, looking for the boss of the area, the clown spider. We see some amateurs walk into the lair of the clown spider. Now here's the thing. A clown is supposedly scary. A giant spider is number 3 on my list of things to never encounter until I die. So just imagine what sort of atrocity the combination of a clown and a spider will look like. We don't see what happens to them, but my curious mind will say they'll be wrapped in a web somewhere, awaiting the appointed time to feed on them. No, my stupid mind was wrong. When will I learn that these animators are thinking in a dimension I haven't reached? Sunraku approaches the lair of the boss but is denied entry because some players were still inside fighting the boss. The amateurs we saw weren't wrapped up like we thought. A player falls flat on the floor and is quickly flattened by a boulder. This clown spider is not joking around. Now Sunraku is granted access, and he tells Emul he wants to take a run at this alone and better still without losing any HP. The spider is at the top of its lair. Sunraku runs up the walls of the lair, swerving, twisting, and turning, making moves that will give Tom Holland a run for his money. He uses a skill that helps him to jump to evade boulders that are sent down from above. He grabs onto a vertical webbing and stands on it. Emil is worried because she thinks he's going to get stuck on the web. He enlightens her dumb ass. Before we know it, it's raining boulders. But this Peter Parker is in the business of not losing to a mere spider. He gets to the boss and uses a series of slashes to send the spider falling down its turf. Just when the spider thinks it's going to use a web to break its fall, Sunraku sends a throwing knife to intersect the web. Emul on the ground takes cover, and the spider falls, but that won't be enough to kill it, Sunraku thinks to himself. Then he sees a series of boulders and logs of wood hanging by web, and without a second thought, he uses the spider's medicine against it. Just as Emil comes out of hiding, the wave of boulders shocks Emil. It still didn't die. What is this thing made of? He faces it head on. The spider leaps forward to attack Sunraku, but he jumps backward, and the marks on the body of the spider remind him of the battle he had with Likagon. He charges at the spider and kills it with a critical hit. We see a new player, Oikatsu, who picked up the game simply because Sunraku picked it up. Apparently, she thinks the game is too easy and hopes it's got more in store for her. Rei returns to the game store to report the good news to the receptionist. She tells him how good Sunraku is. On her way home, Rei sees Sunraku while he reads a magazine. She runs and hides from his sight. Sunraku sees an update that SLF is getting a new update. He remembers the meeting he had with Ratso and Pencil Knight. Pencil Knight requests that they all play SLF, especially to track down a unique monster, Weathermon the Tomb Guard. Ratso and Sunraku look at each other and scream in happiness. Ratso expresses how he has always wanted to fight a unique monster like Likagon. Sunraku, and I'm sure even you. We wonder how the three of them are going to take down a unique monster. She tells them the day and tells them their level does not matter. She's after sheer skill. That's why she chose Ratso the pro gamer and Sunraku the trash gamer. The fact that this meeting is happening in a game about another game. Sunraku explains to Pencil Knight that she has to explain in full before they can buy into the suicidal thought of going after a unique monster that 15 of the elite Ashura Kai members went after and were wasted like trash amateurs. Back to reality. Sunraku leaves the store and is approached by Rei. She has finally gathered some courage. I thought she was waiting for her love to obtain a physical form and express itself to Sunraku. This fish-brained boy racks his head trying to remember her name. Ga-san this, Ga-san that. But he finally got her name. I'm so proud of this crayfish. This lovely little maiden tells him she also plays SLF, and all this cow could think of was how this game has gotten popular enough to draw girls from rich families. Oh, it gets worse, she mutters in her words. But she says she'll like to play SLF with him. All her efforts fall down the drain because he gets a mail from Pencil Knight. Just at the moment she asks if they could play together. How do we let this cow know this grass is trying to get his attention? He runs off on her because a certain Pencil Knight is waiting for him. I'm pissed right now. He realizes he should have asked for Rei's handle as he logs into SLF. He tells Emil to get off his face. He tells her that in 2 weeks he will be facing off with Weathermon the Tomb Guard, and Emil is filled with dread. She takes off immediately to report to Vash. Sunraku wonders what has gotten into her. He thinks back on what Pencil Knight told him, saying NPCs that die in SLF do not respawn. I wasn't expecting something like that. I really do not want anything to happen to my cute little Emul. Thanks for watching, fellow weebs. If you enjoyed this recap, dive into one of the next videos, and don't forget to check out our cool anime hoodies in the description below. See you in the next recap. What anime should we recap next?